Looks like we're live. Hey, everybody, and welcome to Chef AJ and Friends. My guest today is Dr. Ron Weiss, and we call this episode The Doctor is In. He comes on usually the third Friday of every month, but this week or this month we have it on the last Friday because we had the summit and we didn't want to compete against ourselves. Before I welcome him to the show and ask him the questions that you've previously submitted, I just want to thank Danielle Hicks and everyone at Go To Lung Cancer, the place to go if you have lung cancer, go to for lung cancer, for sending me this very heavy treasure trove of gifts. I'm wearing two of them today, this really cool jacket and this bracelet that says, Imagine no lung cancer. But there's just so much. You guys are sending me amazing gifts and thank you. But please always tell me your name or your address because we're getting so many things from Amazon. And when they're anonymous, Amazon will not tell us. So we have like this whole pile of gifts that we're not thanking you for. So please make sure you tell us. So there's one thing, and maybe Dr. Weiss, do you know what this is? There's all these beautiful gifts in here. There's books, there's journals, there's flashlights, there's cups. I could do a whole show about it, but I don't know what this is. Does anybody watching know what this is? Or you, Dr. Weiss? Do you wear it?
Trying to look. It looks like a schmata. I'm trying to look.
Yeah, so
Um,
it's like a tube, but I mean, do I wear it on my head? I don't know what it is. So anybody
Interesting.
watching, let me know what it is. And
I'm.
to
It doesn't look like it's in a doctor's realm. I,
well, thank you.
I for a second I thought it was a pillowcase, but then both ends are open, right?
I just don't know. I just don't know what this is. So let me know. And thanks again, Danielle and everybody at Go To for Lung Cancer. She was on the show. Please watch that episode. So how have you
The
been, Doctor?
jacket is beautiful.
Yeah, I
The
really like it. It's just,
it's
it's very
really
professional.
it looks great,
I mean, it looks a little bit
especially with
right.
that hat.
Yeah, I know. I love this color. I just love this
Yeah,
jacket. And it's so
teal.
cool here. What's your favorite color, Dr. Weiss?
My favorite color is orange.
Really? That's unusual.
Yes, and a specific orange.
Ah.
The orange of the California poppy in the morning. You know the way the sun in the springtime, the way the sun comes and backlights those beautiful orange blossoms. It's so light orange. It reminds me of the color of Tang. You know, when we grew
Wow.
up, remember Tang?
I do remember that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That is funny. So what have you been up to? Has the snow melted away?
It had, it's been very wickedly cold here for over a month. And we had snow on the farm here covering the fields. And snow is a wonderful thing for a farm because it helps to protect the soils from dehydration, from erosion. So we're really happy that we had this snow covering our fields for all this time. But all of a sudden now it's in the 40s and 50s, so it's all gone.
Well, that's warm for you guys.
Yeah. I don't think you get hit by this in California, but I know the central and our eastern part of the nation, we get these Arctic inversions, I guess, because of climate change. There's more cold air coming down from the poles, right? From the Arctic. And people think, oh, okay, well, yeah, there's really not any climate change now, but it's counterintuitive. The reason why this is more likely is because the ice is melting at the poles. Yeah.
Yeah. And yet a lot of people deny that it's happening, right?
Yes, it's important to face our reality.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
Yes. Don't get me started.
Yep, yep, yep.
Okay, but listen, I always tell people I like being hopeful. And farming is a profession of hope, right? Because farmers always are battling, well, not always. Mother Nature is the ally, and we try to model Mother Nature because when we do that and we align with Mother Nature, then we are gifted with, beautiful food. But, sometimes Mother Nature throws things to the farmer's ways, and it's not, that's why it is a profession of hope. So even if you lose your crops or there's a hailstorm or things freeze to death, You can always, the mind of the farmer always thinks next year. Next year, I'm going to do it. Next year, we're going to have a big crop.
Wow. Well, you
So
have,
well, the reason why I was saying that is when people come to me with, and I know everyone can be very down and it's depressing about climate change and the environment, but what we try to instill in people is just it's restore your own world, do your own acts, recycle your own vegetables, make your own compost, do it every day, plant a pollinator little garden in your yard, make sure you're giving butterflies and bees a habitat, and those are very doable. You may not know what to do to combat 20 -20 degree air coming down from Arctic. However, if we all plant those little flowers and all make the compost and all, do our part, we won't have to worry about that anymore. So that's the way I look
okay. I just got an answer for the CEO of Go-To for Lung Cancer. She says this is called a buff, and it's supposed to keep your neck warm when you're on walks. So it is something
at
to wear.
it. Okay, that
I
that
just,
is a good idea.
yeah.
So how do you put it on?
Well, no, at first I thought it was a top, but I'm
It's
like,
like a scarf?
she's calling it a buff. Has anybody ever heard of a buff?
You know
Let's,
what I think you're supposed to do? Yeah, you're supposed to put it on over your head, and then you're supposed to pull it down.
okay. Probably should have
Does it go
taken,
over your hat?
probably
Yeah.
should have taken, I probably should have taken my hat off first. Ah, well, very
Very
nice.
nice.
Well, now I have a complete outfit, don't I?
Yeah,
This is cool because yes, I
that
love the
is
show.
cool.
Okay, perfect. All right, I'm all set for the show now.
It almost
People are
looks like
like,
you're wearing an ascot.
people are like, oh, do you know what the difference between an
You
ascot?
look like Thurston Howell the third.
I love that show. What's the difference between an ascot and a henway?
I've never heard of a hen.
You're supposed to say what's a
Okay, okay, okay. Now I'm getting it.
you're
You're
supposed to
telling me
say,
a joke.
you're
Okay,
supposed to
what is the difference between an ascot and a hen?
okay, you're supposed to say what's a henway?
Okay, what's a hen one?
I don't know, about 5 pounds.
Okay.
Oh my God, you're just a, yeah, you're
I
not a very
completely
good,
blew that.
you're a
I
terrible
know.
straight man. Terrible
That's
straight.
terrible.
I'm just kidding. Okay, first
Can
question.
I tell if you
Oh,
ever want a great joke? Did I ever tell a joke on your program before?
I
But
don't
I
know,
know
but
there's a lot of questions.
well, no, go ahead. Tell we love jokes.
This is this is this is a joke that is a favorite and told, and I can never tell jokes as well as Mark Huberman. You know Mark, right?
Yep, he loves jokes too.
He's the master of delivery of jokes. But he told this, he's told it several times. He told it at our farm days, and I think it's the funniest thing. Okay, you ready?
Absolutely.
Okay. So an 80-year-old man goes to a new doctor to establish care. And he goes, says, I've reached 80. Let me go get maybe an annual physical. I don't have a doctor, haven't been to doctor in a long while. He goes to this new doctor, and the doctor's, and he's plant-based, by the way, has eaten plant-based for many years. He goes to the doctor, and the doctor's getting all of his history, and then he gets what are your allergies? What did you do before you retire? Well, whatever. And then he gets to his family history, and he's asking this gentleman, okay, so what did your father pass away from? Did he have cancer? Did he have heart attacks? And the gentleman says, I don't remember telling you my father passed away. And the doctor, looks wide-eyed. Your father is still alive? He said, absolutely. He's 102 years old. And the doctor says, oh my God, is he in good health? He said, yeah, he's in perfect health. He doesn't take a medication, drives a car, he's fine. He said, okay, well, how about your grandfather? Did he have any prostate cancer, any inherited diseases? When he died, what did he die of? And the gentleman says, I don't remember telling you my grandfather died. And
That'll be good.
and now the doctor is flipping out. He cannot believe. He says, "No, that cannot be possible. That your grandfather, are you telling me your grandfather is still alive?" He said, "He certainly is. He's 120 years old, and he's doing very well. And as a matter of fact, he just got married last week." And the doctor said, "This I cannot believe. Why would a 120-year-old man want to get married?" And the gentleman says, "I don't remember telling you that he wanted to get married."
Oh, oh my
Come
God.
on.
That is really good. Yeah, very good
I
delivery.
remember when Mark told that the first time at our festival, there's like silence because then your brain has to do a little thinking like about the punchline, and then within like 5 seconds there was a roll of laughter, and then everyone started laughing. It was really a nice experience.
Well, I'm really going for laughter is the cure and laughter is the best medicine. And, there is research that shows that laughing increases T cell immunity. And that is
Yeah,
what you need to fight cancer.
definitely helps. Yeah, natural killers. Yeah.
Yep. So I'm going to laugh myself well. And that's why I just immerse myself into comedy.
I know. Well, I'm sure I give you Mark's permission to fully utilize that joke. I'm sure you can refine it to tell it better than
It was so fun that night at your house for dinner. Some of the jokes we told, we cannot, we don't want, we cannot
I.
tell on
cannot
YouTube.
tell.
But
Right.
if they come to the live conferences like your farm days or the
Yes.
Vegas conference where I'm
Yeah.
hosting, we will have a comedy night and we will be able to tell those
Yeah.
jokes that are a little bit more suitable for other venues.
Saucy.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. So if you're ready, we'll start. Our
Yes.
first question is from Svetlana. To salt or not to salt? That is the question. I am on blood pressure medication, which is under control. I am whole food plant-based with no oil for over a year. My sodium blood level is very low. Last time was 127 MEQ over L.
Oh, milli equivalents. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So the
Yeah.
question is to salt or not to salt. But, I would say if she's on high blood pressure medication, then I would say no. But who am I to say that?
Hmm. Well, the question is, why is she on high blood pressure medicine?
Mm.
That's what whenever I come across a person, she gives you no other information, right?
Nope. Just other than whole food, plant-based, no oil for over a year, no age, no anything like. Yeah. So
So for those of us who are listening, um, you know, hypertension, which is chronically elevated blood pressures inside your arteries, is one of like the most predictable things that vanish when you eat a whole food plant-based diet. Like, I think it may be the number one thing that's predictably goes down. So my first question is, why is she still on high blood pressure medicines? Now, just because I said that, that doesn't mean that every single person in the world who has hypertension, if they eat a whole food plant-based diet, will be cured. But it's a high rate. It's like 90, in my book, it's like 95%. They can get off their blood pressure medicines. So it usually means that something else is, if this person didn't get off the blood pressure medicines, usually it means that they're not done with their whole food plant-based journey yet. Like, for example, maybe they weigh too much. We don't know what this young lady weighs. Maybe she has more weight to lose to optimize her weight. Maybe she does eat whole food plant-based, but she's still overweight. That can cause high blood pressure. Maybe she is the normal weight, um, and taking blood pressure medicines, but maybe she's eating too much salt. That's possible because salt alone in specific individuals will cause you not to be able to get off high blood pressure medicines. And by the way, a whole food plant-based diet, its accepted definition at least in our community, means that you are not having added salt. So this, from this lady's question, she said, how can I get off salt, right? Didn't she say that, AJ?
No, she said to salt or not to salt.
Oh, did she say she's currently eating salt or not eating
She
salt?
didn't say. I read the question exactly as it
Yeah.
was.
See, it's difficult. We would need more information because, for example, there are some blood pressure medicines that can cause a low sodium. The diuretics, which are very common, like hydrochlorothiazide or chlorothalidone, those kinds of high blood pressure medicines, they can cause a low sodium. And if that's the case, you've got to get off that because you should not be taking a high blood pressure medicine that is causing a problem in you, like a low sodium level. Now, that having been said, I have taken care of patients who are very dedicated in eating a whole food plant-based diet, and their sodium goes too low, whether they have high blood pressure or not. And sometimes this might be because they're drinking too much water. And if you're drinking too much water on a whole food plant-based diet, you have to remember something. You're already not adding any salt. So you're already taking in low amounts of salt. And then if you drink too much water, the otherwise healthy amounts of low amounts of salt that your body is fine with gets diluted out with too much water, and then your sodium levels drop down below normal. Now, a normal sodium level for most labs is like 134 and above. I think maybe 133, but usually 134. Sometimes I've seen 135. This young lady's sodium level is 127. And I do get a little concerned. So I don't think I would ignore that. And the reason why is it's not that 127 is too low to hurt you, but we don't know where that's going. And if that continues to go down into the mid 120s, the low 120s, 120, one teens, it may not be predictable. If this is where is this level going? And if it gets to a certain point, terrible seizures, you can become neurologically impaired. It can be life threatening. So I think that she should go to her doctor and figure out which one of these many scenarios that I just described is causing her to have a low sodium, because that has to be figured out. If you're not on a blood pressure pill that causes that. If all these other things are not playing out, then what I would do if I were you is I would eat miso. I would eat miso. Do you like miso, Chef AJ?
I mean, I like it in things, I don't have it very often, but I have one recipe with it that's in
Well,
it.
because most of us shouldn't have it that often. But that's what I give to people who have a fixed low sodium, who are eating whole food plant-based, who need to bring up their sodium levels. And that has worked because miso has a lot of salt in it. And so the reason why I do that is because you don't want to have too low of a sodium. And if it's not fixable, you can at least do that to make yourself safe. And the nice thing about miso, salt and miso, it has been demonstrated in studies it is the only kind of salt that we can ingest that has been shown not to drive up our blood pressure. So that kind of salt would not make your hypertension worse if it's in miso. So that's the story with the low sodium. And I think maybe we need some more information, or you need a little more evaluation or work done as to the causes of your low sodium. Yeah.
Thank you. That's interesting to know about miso. So the next question is from Nancy. And this is, I am getting feedback. My husband was recently diagnosed with multiple myeloma and has started standard chemo immunotherapy treatments. He's followed a vegan diet for more than 30 years and has been primarily, but not completely, whole food plant-based for about 10. He eats gluten-free pretzels, cashew yogurt, and Go Macro bars. We are looking for some advice about how to deal with his diagnosis and whether there are lifestyle things he can do to help deal with the cancer treatments. He's likely to have a stem cell transplant after 6 months of treatment. Thank you for all you do.
First of all, do you know where this gentleman lives?
No, do you have? I don't know anything except what they send in. Oh my gosh, I wish they
Okay.
would watch live.
Because, well, I hope they're listening,
Yeah,
because if they're in the New York, New Jersey area, I have the perfect doctor for them, who is whole food plant-based, who's an oncologist at Sloan Kettering, who is looking for patients to put in trials. And her specialty is multiple myeloma and MGUS. Hold on a second. I just don't want to give you the wrong spelling. It's Dr. Urvi Shah. Hold on a second. Let me be patient, please. Yes, URVI Shah, SHAH. And I know she's actively seeking patients with multiple myeloma who are plant-based or who want to follow plant-based regimen. She's a researcher, an oncologist, and a clinician at Memorial Sloan Kettering in New York City. Urvi Shah, SHAH.
thank.
So, um, so
We have
let's see.
we have her email, so we're going to send her an email with this
Oh, you
info.
do? Do you know Dr. Shah?
No, we don't have Dr. Urvi Shah's email. We have Nancy's email because she submitted a question,
Okay.
so we're going to tell
Well,
her
you
about
know
it.
what? I mean, I know that may be something that you want to think about, because she is at Sloan Kettering, which is one of the nation's foremost cancer hospitals, uh, and she's a very lovely lady. And even if you wanted to have her on her show to talk about maybe multiple myeloma and the hematologic malignancies and MGUS and why she thinks that whole food plant-based is so powerful, I can give you her private information later on if you wish.
Yes, I'd like to
Okay.
have her on the show.
She's wonderful.
I really want to focus on cancer, so I would love to
Yes,
have her on the show. Thank
yes.
you.
So the first thing that pops into my mind is, which is, I know it popped into your mind, right, AJ? Why me? Why me? I've been eating plants all the time. I thought plants were supposed to prevent, me from getting cancer. So I know that's the reflexive thing that all cancer patients who've been are vegan or eating plants. And I can tell you look, I can give you a number of answers for this question, which I think we've maybe touched upon before, AJ, but the first thing is, I don't consider necessarily a vegan diet, although it's probably better for cancer than eating an omnivorous diet or an animal food based diet, and definitely a heavily processed diet. It's really, in order to prevent cancer, you really need high nutrient level foods. And that comes from plants. And that comes from well grown plants in living soils, because that's how you get all of the tens of thousands, if maybe not hundreds of thousands, of cancer fighting molecules in plants. You don't get them any other way. So I think it depends on the quality of the diet. It sounds like this gentleman has been whole food plant-based for 10 years, which intimates that his diet quality has improved, right? Versus the prior vegan label that he used. But some cancers are set in motion over decades, Chef AJ, right? Like, and how do you know that maybe if you hadn't been whole food plant-based for the 10 years, you would have been diagnosed 8 years ago, and you would have passed away. You don't know that. And it's like with you, AJ, you don't know that the way you were living is the reason why you're still here and thriving. And I know from looking and observing my patients for many years, the ones who come and get cancer and who adopt a plant-based diet, I know that they do much better than people who just go on eating the traditional foods, standard American diet, and then just getting chemo. They don't that group doesn't do as well in anecdotally, as far as my observations go, as far as complications, as far as longevity, and as far as performance status. How vibrant are you? How strong are you? How much can you go to the gym? How much energy do you have? So definitely the people who eat the whole food plant-based diet, and even if you're getting chemo, they do better than the people who are eating regularly and getting chemo. The other, the other thoughts I have to give this gentleman and his wife are that I don't know what your chemo, schedule is, but multiple myeloma is, it's a serious malignancy, and there have been game-changing drugs that have been developed over the past decade or so to that actually, allow people to have a good response. So I understand if you are getting these drugs, but what I would also do is I think fasting is a good idea before you get the chemotherapy, because a lot of these drugs, they may have side effects. And I have seen in my patients who fast for a few days before they get the chemo administered, absolutely, they tolerate the chemo much better without side effects. Can that help you fight the cancer? That fasting before you get the chemo for the multiple myeloma? We don't know. I don't know. I don't have a good answer for you, but I'll tell you something. It couldn't hurt. It might help you, and it couldn't hurt. And absolutely, I have seen that I have had patients who have fasted. We have fasted before their chemos. Their oncologists at Sloan Kettering, at other cancer centers, were amazed that they never had to take a medicine for nausea, or pain. By the way, they never filled their prescriptions because they had no side effects. So I think that's a good tip for you. Let's see what else. And the other tip is, I think if you go back and listen to Dr. Furman's interview with Chef AJ, was he your first episode in this past month?
Oh my gosh, who was number
In
one?
Thriving in the Face of Cancer?
We started.
Yeah.
He was one
Listen
of
to
the
that
first.
one. It was the first or not. It was so marvelous. I've listened to it because I find it an inspiration to listen to it. You should listen to that. And you can also tune into my episode with AJ, which was like a week or so later, 2 weeks later, on, and we both talk about plant molecules, phytonutrients, and how important they are in order to how important they are in order to key your immune system to fight better for you. And so you need to have, I think Dr. Furman uses the term precision diet. Is that what he used? Precision medicine or customized, something like that. But you really need to have a diet that is so high level. It's a high quality diet focused on all of the highest of these cancer fighting molecules. And of course, dark leafy cruciferous greens are in that hit parade. They're always number one. Mushrooms are important. Alliums are important. The garlics and the onions. Um, the vegetables as a class are very important. Spices are important. All those things. And of course, all the other plant foods that we eat are great for you. What was I going to tell you? The last thing that I try to encourage my patients to do who are fighting cancer is to connect with the natural world. And I know that maybe sounds a little vague, but you can do it in a specific way. If you have a forest once a week, if it's near you, and if it's not, it's worth a drive into the country. Go get yourself a forest and hike through the forest and spend a couple of hours there once a week. And if you can find in that forest, if it's a conifer forest with like white pine or cedar or other kinds of trees, even better, because the aromas of those trees, you breathe them in, they get into your blood, and they trigger your natural killer cells to help kill your multiple myeloma cells and other cancer cells. And it lasts for weeks when you do that. So I like to have my patient doing that activity once a week. For example, the studies have shown that this major kind of cell, which is the natural killer cell, which kills cancer cells, their activity and their populations can be increased by 50%. I said 50%. You get 50% more cancer fighting immune cells and you increase their aggressiveness. That's what you want. Go to the forest.
Well, in some of these cancer support groups I'm in, they actually have forest bathing excursions as part of the healing protocol.
Yeah, it's important.
Well, I want to bring up a point here, and this has been my frustration with the whole plant-based community, just in general, and especially since I revealed my diagnosis, is that there seems to be a belief that diet is the be all and end all. And I'm not saying it's important, because the truth is even if it wasn't healthy, I'd be vegan for ethical reasons. But the more I'm in this space of healing, especially with people from cancer, I've seen more doctors in the last 2.5 years than I have in the previous 65 years. And I go to 5 cancer support groups pretty much like every week. Some are focused just on lung cancer, some are general. So I've met hundreds of people now. And there are people that have not changed their diet and they are still healing, and that they've done conventional medicine that many of the plant-based people don't agree with, whether it's chemo or radiation, and they are still healing many years. And so there's this piece of healing that almost every plant-based doctor seems to ignore. You know, they don't look at the whole person. And now that I'm doing all this mental, emotional, and spiritual work, I'm like, wow. You know, this is completely, I mean, I'm not saying you ignore it because you teach mindfulness, and certainly Dr. Matt Letterman doesn't ignore it because that's how I got into working on this dimension of healing. But I feel like you know, you can't just throw kale at a stage 3 lung cancer diagnosis. And I'm not saying that I shouldn't and couldn't improve my diet more.
Listen, I 100% agree with what you're saying. And if I had to, let me put it this way. If I had to pick just as a lifestyle medicine doctor, you know, just to review for your audience, there are well 6 recognized, and we put our own here on the farm a 7th pillar of behaviors that are essential for good health, and they are whole food plant-based nutrition, the realm of sleep, movement and exercise, stress management and mindfulness, social connection, the avoidance of things that are hazardous to you. And that last one is connection to the natural world, because we have relationships that are ancient that have been so disrupted. I often think that's one of the large reasons why we get sick in the first place. We must restore those relationships by going to our ancient family in those woods. We evolved over millions of years as hunters and gatherers in forests. Those trees protect us. We need to go back. So it's not, look, if I had to take any one of those and you say, Dr. Weiss, give me the number one, rank them. Like you asked me, what's my favorite color? Well, I told you the California poppy, which is the state flower, right? that beautiful, like shimmery light orange. I love that. Um, However, I love purple and I love yellow and I like red, but they're very close. And I could give you, we just talked about how important all those cancer fighting nutrients are. But AJ, I could lock you up in this room, in this office, in here with three crates of kale a day, close the blinds. If you became depressed, you're going to die. There's not enough kale in this world to help you. So I agree with you. It needs to be. It's a multifaceted. Wellness is complex, and um, you need to take every opportunity that's given to you. Absolutely. Mindfulness and stress management help to increase your immune system's fight, right? Positive attitude. We know people who are stressed out and depressed, their immune system goes down. How can you win against cancer? So I think those are the benefits that you're accruing, as you described. Same thing with sleep. We know there are immune defects if your sleep is not correct. Uh, we talked about, I think, on my segment about awe, right? Awe is important. The concept of making sure you have an awe-inspiring moments every day, that that picks up your immune system. We can measure it in your blood. So yes, I think that it's necessary to put all of these things together, not just sit in a corner with a pair of tweezers eating sprouts.
Yeah. Well, one of I loved all the shows for the 31 Days of Thriving in the Face of Cancer. Dr. Weiss was on it, and please refer to them. And one of the episodes that didn't get very many views was my own personal physician, Dr. Neil Nedley, talking about how anxiety suppresses the immune system. And I've been anxious my whole life. So that's what I'm working on. I just got a text from my friend Sarah saying this is a neck buff, but I just realized I could also use
What
it
is
for
it called? A neck
a
buff?
neck buff. And so look, Dr. Weiss, I could also use it to rob a bank. Look at this. This is,
You could.
it,
Or maybe you're going skiing.
yeah, no, that's not going to happen. I don't like cold weather. It's never going to
Yes,
happen. All right.
you're with me.
All right. Terrific. So here's a question from Cindy about gallbladder surgery. Before going plant-based, she had it in 1999. And from what she read, 51% of people having surgery have adhesions, lesions, scar tissue. I have extreme upper abdominal pain every day. I cannot consume many raw foods. It was only diagnosed after several colonoscopies, endoscopies, ultrasounds, etc. They kind of threw up their hands and came up with the adhesion. It feels like there is something pulsating, sometimes pulsating softball attached to the liver area. Why don't doctors tell people of the possible problems? About every 5 years or so, I'm in tears. I request another scan. I've been told that they won't do anything unless you're suicidal. Well, I don't know the risk of more scar tissue. Is there anything they can do? You're the best, Cindy.
Well, thank you for writing, Cindy. Um, so, so our audience can understand. Yes, Cindy is talking about adhesions. What are adhesions? Well, it is a complication of having intra-abdominal surgery when the abdominal wall is cut open and surgeons enter the abdominal cavity. It is possible in some individuals, and now Cindy said 50 some odd percent. I'm not, uh, you know, I'm not exactly sure it's that high. I'd have to do some research on it, but I can tell you that it's a not a common complaint in people who have had operations, although it's not rare. And what happens is the lining surfaces of your inner abdomen are very sensitive. And if they've even been touched by a surgeon's glove or an instrument, mind you, they can all of a sudden generate scar tissue. It's not because they've been cut, even. Just touching the surface with the hand, the surgeon's gloved hand or with instruments can all of a sudden cause these rubber band like strings of scar tissue to grow from one surface to another. And they cannot generally be seen on CAT scans or ultrasounds or other kinds of tests. And it is thought that they can cause chronic abdominal pains. And it is thought that sometimes these pains can be quite bad. Problem is, it's a very difficult diagnosis to make, number one, because there's a whole trash can of what's called chronic abdominal pain, which is a doctor's living nightmare for a patient. It's the patient who continues to have abdominal pain of some sort. All tests are negative, and we don't know why the pain is occurring. In the old days, doctors confronted with a patient like this, if desperate enough, would do, quote, an exploratory. That means they'd cut you open and look around, ooh, to see with their eyes if they could see why you were having a pain. That's not such a good idea. That term and that kind of surgery has basically almost completely fallen by the wayside during my lifetime as a doctor. And as you can understand, if what I'm telling you is true, that if you do have adhesions, these scar tissue bands causing this pain and pulling on your organs, well, if you went in there again, even if what they're called, some surgeons out of desperation, as you mentioned, will operate on you again to cut them, but going in there again can cause more. So it's not seen as a highly effective treatment, right? Because in order to go in there to remove the adhesions, you're at risk for having more form. So it's like it's a catch-22 situation we're dealing with, and that's why all the surgeons are very reluctant to do anything with you. What I would advise is the following. I just think when I have a difficult problem, what would I do if I were the patient? So it's a very difficult diagnosis to make. And just because one or two doctors tell you, oh, you have abdominal pains because of adhesions, it doesn't mean that they're right. It's hard to make. And they don't show up on imaging studies. So how are we to know? They're basically just going on your past history. Oh, I can't find anything. So I guess by exclusion, I guess you must have that. But it's a guess. It's like an educated guess. I would get a third opinion, and if necessary, a fourth opinion from an abdominal pain specialist. Number two, this young lady says she's whole food plant-based.
Oh my gosh. Yes. I mean, I don't think she was at the time. Let me double check the thing. Of course.
I would definitely, I would,
Yeah. The surgery was 1999 before she was plant-based. She didn't say exactly when she went plant-based.
but is she whole food? So plant-based, as you know, AJ, doesn't necessarily mean like plant-based like Dr. Esselstyn or plant-based like Dr. Furman, or right? I mean, plant-based can mean a lot of things. Plant-based could mean that my food I'm eating is giving me chronic abdominal pains. So the second thing I would do is make sure you're at a high level of eating plants, because maybe if you are not, maybe it's the plant-based diet that you're eating now that's giving you abdominal pains. And we often, I would say maybe a couple of times a month, we have patients who come in here who are plant-based who have abdominal pains. Yes, they have abdominal pains from eating. And then when we ratchet up their diet, the pains go away. So I would make sure that the diet has been customized to you to make sure that that it's not some kind of food intolerance or some kind of effect from the plant-based diet you're eating. Thirdly, if after all of that you're still having pains, oh yeah, if after all of that you're still having pains, I would contact Dr. Alan Goldhammer at True North to see if he has experience with the resolution of adhesions with long-term water fasting. And the reason why I think that this might be possible is because I can tell you, I have known people, including one of our own staff members, who fasted for, 2 weeks and scar tissue vanished in them. In this specific case, it was scar from a surgical scar, a prominent scar on the abdomen that had been there for years, and it went away. And I have seen that. So by deduction, this is also a scar tissue, and I think that it may be possible if the long-term water fasting caused those cutaneous scars to go away, perhaps it can cause adhesion scars to go away. And why might that be? Well, when your body runs out of resources, in other words, it doesn't have any more food, no more supplies, no more minerals, vitamins, starches, carbohydrates, proteins, what it starts to do is it starts to attack useless and underused or corrupted materials in the body for disruption, for destruction, so that it can get building materials. And scar tissue is that kind of material, right? It doesn't really serve a purpose. So I would suggest, as a last suggestion, as a last act, to contact Dr. Goldhammer. He'll be glad to talk to you. And, he may have experience with this.
Great. And I told Linda, who's my virtual assistant who gathers the questions, to tell her about Dr. Neil Nedley, my doctor here, because he's also a GI doctor and he's pretty darn smart, and he might even do a consult too.
So I think that would be maybe just an opinion, a third opinion or second. I don't know how many doctors she's gone to. Sometimes it's good to get just a different doctor's head. Doctors think differently about things. It's not always the same rote thing over and over again.
Yeah, great. Thank you. So here's a question from, oh, sorry, I had it pulled up. And so guys, I know there's a lot of questions in the chat, but please, you've got to submit them in advance because we do take the ones that were pre-submitted first, like this one from Luann. Hi, Dr. Weiss. Several times during the month, I'm awakened with sometimes extreme numbness in my hands, legs, and or feet. It only happens on one side at a time, and I have to shake it off. I'm 68 years old. I eat whole food plant-based, take magnesium and B12, among other supplements. It's been happening for about a year and only at night. I'd appreciate your thoughts and possible causes on this. Thanks, Luann.
That's a very interesting question. I can make a few comments. The first thing I'd like to say is what allows me to basically comment and I think give worthwhile advice on these medical questions is if there's enough of a history, Chef AJ, and enough information. I was taught by one of my first mentors, even before when I was at pre-med, that if you get a good enough history, you can make the diagnosis 90% of the time. However, I said 90% of the time. I didn't say 100% of the time. So the other 10% of making the diagnosis may require seeing the patient in front of you, examining the patient, getting other tests. So given that, I'm working with what this young lady said, which is basically her history, which is adequate. But I would say that, it's kind of a little odd that this numbness and tingling occurs I'm guessing it sounds like it's only at night because she didn't say it occurs during the day. So
Yeah, she
it
said it's
sounds
only,
like
yeah, she said
it's
only
only
at
at
night,
night when she's
only at
sleeping.
night.
Okay. And so the first thing I'm thinking is this is positional. Well, no. It's not the first thing I'm thinking. The first thing I'm thinking is this is a nerve, these are nerve symptoms. Numbness, tingling, pins and needles, that kind of, the medical name is dysesthesia. Esthesia means feeling, and dys means dysfunctional. There's something wrong with it. That kind of, when you say numbness, pins and needles, numbness, tingling, those are the symptoms of nerves. So it's already telling me that these are nerve quality symptoms, and you have something wrong with your nerves. Okay. Now, the fact, number two, that it's only occurring during that specific time period is very, um, to me, it's indicative of position of the body because it seems like I am deducing that during when you're conscious during the day and your limbs are free or you're moving them or you're doing whatever you do, you're feeling fine. But at night, we get into positions during sleep where you could be like this, right? Where, for example, the elbow can be completely flexed and you can lie like this for an hour. And if you do that and you have a narrowing of the groove where the ulnar nerve, for example, goes to, or for example, the median nerve in the hand, if there's you have carpal tunnel, that can cause numbness and tingling, uh, which will resolve if you straighten out your arm. So, and the reason why I'm telling you this is because I have had these problems myself. I don't for some I guess I've changed my position of sleep a number of years ago. For about a year or two, I noticed that if I kept my arm in this position with elbow completely flexed and I remained like that, I guess for a period of time, I would awake with feeling like my arm fell asleep, and it was very annoying. And then my treatment would be just to extend my arm. That's it. So I think that's what you're doing. Um, I think probably had a chronic fixed neuropathy. Oh, they'd be bothering you all the time. Like there are people who have diabetic neuropathy, small fiber neuropathy. There are untold numbers of different kinds of nerve damage, but you're going to have those problems during the day too, not just at night. So I think it's a positional thing with your sleeping. Um, Evaluate your
Well, that
sleep
would be
position.
certainly good for her to try.
Yes, and uh, you can try something. Listen to me. It you can. I'll give you a little exercise. She said it's in her hands too, right?
I You always ask me, and then I put the question away. No, she
Well,
didn't.
I think she said the
She
hands.
said,
She said hands and feet.
yeah, just the feet, I believe.
So here's a little something you can do. The most common reasons to have nighttime pins and needles in your hand is either because you have carpal tunnel that's activated, that's the median nerve that's going through your wrist. And if that's true, the pins and needles are in the thumb, the index, and the middle finger. Okay, you got that? That's if it's carpal tunnel median nerve. And the way you can interrupt that is to wear a cock up wrist splint. Wear one of those Velcro wrist splints. And you wear, I tell people to wear it 24 hours a day, but especially at night. And it prevents your wrist from flexing and pinching off the nerve positionally. Um, if you realize the pins and needles are in the little finger and the ring finger, that means the ulnar nerve. And these are the two main nerves that supply the hand, are being impinged upon. And that would be that would be an elbow straightening splint. And you can do that by, I don't know, rigging something up, like maybe like a binding like a rolled towel to your elbow to make sure it doesn't flex all the way. But if you can do those experiments and see if I'm right. And if you realize after, you'll notice the first night or so, oh my God, I don't have these problems anymore in my hand, then you know what I'm saying is true. It's positional.
Back to the miso for a minute, because Rich brought up an interesting question and point, and he wanted to know, what is it about the miso? Wait, let me get his exact words. What type of salt is in miso that causes you not to have a raise in your blood pressure or high blood pressure? And why can't we have this salt available in other ways?
Well, it's not the salt. It's not the salt per se. It's not a special kind of salt. It's thought that perhaps the plant molecules that are in the soybean has certain powers to mitigate the negative effects of salt on our blood pressure. It's not that the salt is special. Yeah.
Got it. Well, do you have to go back to work?
I think I do.
Oh, darn. Okay, well,
I wish
guys,
I could be here with you some more.
I know we can do a runathon, 3 hours,
Yes.
all run all the time. Well, thank you, Dr.
Yes.
Weiss. We look forward to seeing you next month on the third Friday, which is March 21st, the day before my 65th birthday. Oh, I get Medicare tomorrow.
Oh, what? March what?
March 21st. Is that your birthday?
Okay, March 27th. We'll have
Yes,
to do
right.
a
You're
birthday
after
week.
me. Mine's the 22nd, but you're coming on March 21st.
Okay, we still like you because you're an Aries. You
Yep.
just
And
made it.
so
You just made it into the club.
guess what? In another 12 hours, I will officially have Medicare.
Wow.
That means the
Well,
world is my oyster. I don't know what, I don't
that
understand
is.
saying
As
why
long
that.
as you have traditional Medicare,
I got the good
make
kind.
sure it stays traditional. These do not get the Advantage plans.
I don't know what I have, but I have AARP and United Health with it, and I got all kinds of stuff.
I don't know.
All I know is
Yeah.
instead of paying $3,000 a month, I'm paying $300. So that's going to be amazing.
Okay.
Yep.
Well,
All right.
welcome to Medicare.
I know. I love it. The one good thing about being 65. Thanks, Dr. Weiss, and thanks all of you for watching another episode of Chef AJ and Friends. Come back tomorrow. We have 5 live shows starting at 7 a.m.